What's happening, YouTube? Anthony on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film with a brand new Lost Galaxy 2014 review. And today we're taking a look at Hasbro's Marvel Legends X-Men Husk figure, part of the Build-A Marvel Nemesis wave of figures. You know, when you think about the name Marvel and Nemesis, I knew this was going to bring back some nostalgia to a 20-year-old Marvel game that Electronic Arts did with Marvel. And yeah, Marvel Nemesis, because Marvel and Nemesis. And it just got me thinking about that game, just given the name of it. Like, you know, is Nemesis a character we have in the X-Men universe that I need to know about? Because again, outside of my usual Professor Xavier, Magneto, Mystique, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, Jean Grey, Havoc, Iceman, Rogue, etc., those characters of X-Men, there is a lot of characters outside of those mutants that I don't really know much about. But I also do know characters like, you know, Domino, Cable, Colossus, those characters too. But there are characters in X-Men I don't know nothing about. So going into this review casually, I need to get a good you know, I wish I had did some, you know, research before doing this review of who Husk is in, you know, X-Men and what she's about. But yeah, but I just feel like, well, again, the figure looks great with the accessory she comes with and the Build-A-Figure piece. And I'm lucky that when I got Husk, she came with the overall torso and the head for the Nemesis figure that I'm going to build once I get the following characters for this particular wave. And since, like I said back in my Phoenix Force Jean Grey review, I said that I'm going to start trying to get as much of X-Men Marvel Legends as possible for my Marvel Legends collection and see where I go from there, because there is a lot of Marvel Legends X-Men I've missed out on that Hasbro put out over the last decade or two, and I definitely need, well, these figures is just a starting point, because, you know, since I'm trying to get these Marvel Legends you know, reviews out if anyone's interested, because I do love Marvel Legends and I do love the line and all, but I've noticed that not a lot of people are watching these videos, you know, for that, because, you know, if this was a Power Rangers Lightning Collection figure, that would get some attention, because, you know, I'm a Power Rangers channel, but yet me covering other stuff, not that brand, is you know, is going to be complicated, because yeah, there's going to be folks who just don't care about anything outside of the usual, you know, niche. But you know, I do want to get started on doing more Marvel Legends than ever before, especially going into 2026. But as of this video's recording, this is slated for November of 2026. I mean 25, sorry, I don't know, God. But you know, but still, I do want to focus on putting out as much as I can, because I do have to make room for my most important thing before 2025 is up. So here's the front of the package, featuring the retro X-Men logo, which is technically the 90s X-Men, you know, logo that we've seen lots of times on comics and whatever. And here's the front of the package featuring Husk and, you know, alternate head, the Build-A Marvel's Nemesis figure piece, two hands and everything. Then you got this side, and then artwork of her from the comic. And so actually, so if I read what the character is about, so Paige Guthrie, a mutant with the ability to morph her skin into any form, becomes a member of the X-Men known as Husk. So that's who she is. But, you know, again, going into her blind, again, I don't really know much about this character, because I don't think I've seen her in anything X-Men other than, oh, she, you know, there's a figure of her for this Build-A figure, but, you know, again, just me being casual about it. So bear with me as I go through the review. So part of the Build-A-Figure wave for Nemesis, I already have this Wolverine, so he's in the storage already, so I'm going to go over him later. But so in order for me to build Marvel's Nemesis, this guy right here, so I already have Husk. All I need to do now is get Gambit, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Morrow, and Fabian Cortez. And then once I've gotten those 5 characters, then I've already built, you know, Nemesis. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at Husk and then take a look at that Build-A-Figure for Marvel's Nemesis. Damn, it makes me wish we brought back the Imperfects. I mean, anybody remember that damn game? let's get on with it. Okay, now that we have Husk out of the package, let's go over all of the accessories that the figure came with, since I already showed off the box and everything. So first we have is a alternate head where you have Husk looking psychotic and like she's ready to like murder or kill someone, but that, man, that is one fierce face on this woman. Oh my good. And look how wild the hair is, because when I saw this figure and when I saw the head sculpt, I was like, I gotta get this, because this is one fierce looking face on this woman. I'm like, man, Hasbro, you have outdone yourselves with this one yet again. And I do like the detail done on her blonde hair, which, you know, it's just so much of that hair on her, especially with how crazy she looks, as opposed to like that crazy, you know, evil head of Jean Grey as the Dark Phoenix from last time for the Phoenix Force. Yeah, that's great. That's a great head. Nice to have. Then you have these interchangeable hands, and whatever this piece is, look like a melted hand or something. Yeah, this piece here, like her hand just got deformed and melted or something, like it got corroded in acid. So yeah, here's her basic interchangeable hands. So for later. So put those accessories aside. Now we take a look at this Build-A Nemesis figure piece, and looking at Nemesis, he kind of looks a little bit like Ghost Rider in a very massive exo suit, sort of, because that's exactly how Nemesis look. He looks, I mean, he got the skull like Ghost Rider, got flames around the collarbone like Ghost Rider, but yeah, he just looks like a really awesome figure. Wait until when I get the following remaining characters to finish him up, and then we're going to take a look at, once I have those 5 other characters, to do the arms, the legs, and I just hope he doesn't become complicated to put together like the Hydra Stomper is, even though I have to finish up that wave once I get Agatha Harkness later. He just looks really cool, and I do like the way how the light on this video is picking up on the lightning effect over the flames of his collar to show off, because once I get the that little dome helmet that he's covered with over the head later on, let's just see how he looks there too. So yeah, that's the figure piece, and then this piece to go around when we, I think once I get his figure later, where does this go? And I know for a fact that this piece will go somewhere actually in the front. I thought it was going to be somewhere in the back. So this is how you put this piece around Husk, but wait until when we get the helmet for his suit, his armored suit, and that's about it. So all these particular Build-A-Figure ports all over. So now we've went over that, and now we need to talk about Husk. But however, I do need to point out before filming this portion, this arm just popped out for some reason. Like, what the heck, Hasbro? I mean, if this was one of those plastic-free packaged Marvel Legends, I could see the, you know, quality, you know, the QC done on, you know, the poor QC done on some of the sculpting on certain body parts, and then some of the limbs of the figure is falling off, like being decapitated. Like, come on, man. This is just wrong. How hard was it for it to stay in the socket, like for this arm to fall out of the socket like that? Now, the figure is okay, you know, basically the face sculpt is okay too, just looking at her normal head, but let's see how her head, you know, this head looks on this body, since we already know what she already looks like. Just looking like, man, she looks sad and stuff, or look pissed off or whatever. I mean, just given that facial expression. And also I've noticed that on the shoulders, the shoulder pads on her suit moves a little too, so that's something I need to watch out as well for. And man, it won't stay in the socket. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, that's just pretty much like, why did this have to happen, man? Like, seriously. In terms of head articulation for this head, you're not going to be able to move her head both directions. Her head just only moves this way, so that pretty much sucks. And now, in terms of getting her other head on, I think you gotta, like, hold on. Yeah, you can take it out of the socket that way. Wow, that was easy. And then put on her alternate head where she looks psychotic and rageful. So let's see how that head looks on this figure. Make sure it goes into the figure. And I'm like, man, damn, why is this so hard? I mean, certain parts are falling off, and then also her belt is a little loose. It's not like, you know, sculpted onto this figure. I mean, I wish Hasbro did that, but they didn't. Then, okay, trying to put it in the head. Come on, go in the head, damn it. The ball joint. It's like, what's wrong with this ball joint? I mean, the ball joints are just like, the way how they just make these joints are just too tough to switch out heads, and I'm trying to put the head on the ball joint, but it just won't do it for some reason. Like, why is it? I mean, that's what makes this figure a little tough for me, is the head joint, and that's a criticism I need to point out. And yeah, shoulder pads are loose, so that's not good. Yeah, you can tell that I'm sounding a little miserable right now because I'm just having difficulties with this figure, just for what it is. I mean, it looks good in presentation, but just in terms of playability and moving certain parts around, it's a little hard. Unless I have to do exactly how I had her head because also due to the back end of the hair being hard, I'm not going to be able to put the head like that. So I don't know why I'm having difficulty putting that head, head on the ball joint, and just put it on there, god damn it. I don't know. And yeah, but this is going to look weird with the head like this. So yeah, it's just like, I don't know what's going on with that ball joint. Okay, I actually managed to, after recording the last part and before filming, I finally managed to pop the head on. Yeah, but it was a little hard though, and that's what kind of disappoints me, is that some of the, the way how they sculpt in and do the 3D printing, because the way how Hasbro 3D printed these figures, sometimes when they do engineering and sculpting on the, the ball joints and everything for these figures and how the figure is going to come together, they do tend to make the ball joints, and especially with the ports, the head ports, a little too tight or too small and just complicated to do. Okay, so now I have Husk's alternate head in, the ball joint. So this is how she looks with a head on, and basically when you have that face with her opening her arm, her mouth open screaming like that, it makes it sound like she's screaming, "Shut up!" like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop a little bit, because it kind of does have that, "Shut up!" screaming screaming expression on the face. But yeah, that's just how she looks. And also I have her elbow crunch built, with her arm like this, like she's wielding Thanos' gauntlet, but she's a mutant. How can she, wield something cosmic and powerful like Thanos' gauntlet? So I just have it just like that. Now for the rest of articulation purposes, her, on this head too, just like the base head, you can't do further turning the head around because of that long lock of hair, especially on the back of this. So you're not going to be able to turn her head all different directions, sadly. So that sucks. Now her elbow crunches are good though, at least, so that counts something. And then also let's do another elbow crunch on this arm here too. So you got both arms, crunching the elbows just fairly. Okay, so there you have that. But again, this arm is a little loose. I don't know why this. As for abdomen crunch is very limited on this figure. So yeah, that's why this figure is probably going to be like my least of the bunch once I get the rest of the other X-Men characters to build Nemesis later. Not great. Well, you can at least spread the legs out on this figure. And then, okay, the elbow, okay, as for the knee crunch, now knee crunches at least is good. And so is the ankle pivots on this and on this foot too. There you go. And then also knee crunch on this leg. And let's see how she stacks up with my other Marvel Legends X-Men figure. Like, take a look at my Phoenix Force Jean Grey and how she stands with her too. So now I have two female mutants in X-Men that I have in my Marvel Legends collection. There's plenty more to come, like Mystique, Rogue, and the rest. So wait until I get them. And even Jubilee. Yeah, I know, Jubilee is very underrated. I hate to say this, folks, but unfortunately, while this is the first of many of the figures to do the Build-A Nemesis wave, I am really not happy with how this figure turned out in terms of playability. I like the way how they did the color balance and stuff on her, and her sculpting her two different faces, but the figure is, I hate to say, is a disappointment. And this is yet another Marvel Legends figure that I'm really disappointed by. And I kind of find, well, I like, Husk is an okay character, but I just find the figure about her for this wave one of my least favorite figures in the wave. But I hope things will get better when I get the other X-Men to build Nemesis for the Build-A-Figure wave. Sorry, folks. I'm just really disappointed with how this figure plays and how things are falling apart. That's just me. So anyway, that's it for my review on Husk until I get the other X-Men to build Nemesis later. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video for yourselves, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time.